Hey everyone, welcome to another round of Canje Plays, and today we're going to get into the preview copy of Storyfold Wildwoods. We're going to be doing the prologue today. This is a solo-only game by Open Owl Studios. It will be coming to crowdfunding on November 12th, so check it out. I want to say thank you to Open Owl for giving me a chance to showcase this game. It is beautifully illustrated. It is a fun, wonderful narrative where you take on the role of Luma and her friend Brom as she traverses the Wildwoods trying to deal with a lot of the corruption there. So let's go ahead and dive in. Storyfold unfolds literally in a book that you have that you lay on your side. So when the book comes, you take it out, put it in the table, put the tokens and the cards that you have onto the side, and the story will unfold as you play. It sounds cheesy, but that's how it works. So let's unfold the story and see how it goes. Many moons ago, in a world of light and shadow, there was a girl named Luma. So this is the play areas, and the majority of the time that you'll be playing will happen here. The story itself will happen here at the beginning. As we flip this up, you'll see more about it, as well as some narrative information that can be given to you. But just quickly, this game is played over a series of rounds. These rounds consist of two phases, the Luma phase and the Shadow phase. In the Luma phase, you will be rolling dice, making tests to see if you can win at certain things. After you've exhausted all your options, you'll go to the shadow phase where the corruption will play their part in what's coming up, advancing the shadow marker. So we'll get more into that as it goes. After you've completed these phases and the objectives of the specific page of your chapter is completed, you will go to what's called the travel phase, where you'll do cleanup, and then you'll continue your unfolding story and start from there. Luma will begin her play here. There will be shadow cards that are out to, they're basically bad things that happen. So if you ever have to draw a shadow card, that's bad news bears for you. And then the unfolding story, which is what's taking you through the narrative of this adventure. This is Luma's spirit track. So basically full health. Think of it as her health track, no health. But when she goes to 0 health, it's not game over. You basically start back over at full health, but you have to draw a shadow card and deal with its outcome. Now, at the bottom of this deck, there is a shadow card that will cause the end of game, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Her berry best friend, Brom, will have his card here, and whenever you need him, he'll come to you, and then you can have at most 3 boons. On here, there's explore. So in specific locations, there are notable things that are in the explore deck that you can look for as if it's part of the adventure or not, and continue with the adventures you play through and discard those, and then creatures that come along and you have to deal with. In this locations, there are crystals, location markers, stun tokens, and then the area for the used dice. Crystals are basically successes that you'll get. So if you ever gain a crystal, you put it on a specific card, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and it will give you an auto success for that ability check if you need it, and you can have more than 1 crystal on 1 card. Location markers are basically when you scout a location and you take on what it needs, whether it's pass or fail. You've done that location, then you put a location marker on there to say that it's completed. Stun tokens are ways to stop creatures from hurting Luma's spirit. So these you can acquire by doing specific actions, which we'll get to as well. And then use dice. This is a dice chucking game of d8s, and based on what you get, used dice you'll get more. You have the potential to get more used dice, or have them work against you. All depends on how it goes. So let's continue on with our narrative and see how things set up. Hall of the Wild. On a crisp morning like so many others, Luma stood still at the edge of the river. Amidst the gentle sounds of flowing water and warmth of the early sun, a light breeze played with her hair. She savored the moment and sighed. Suddenly, a gust of wind sent a flurry of leaves past Luma's gaze. She watched in anticipation as the swirl settled atop the water, forming a trail stretching from her feet to the forest on the other side. The leaves glowed with a soft luminescent light beckoning her to approach. Heart pounding, Luma knelt down. She hesitated, then scooped one of the leaves into her palm. In an instant, a flash of light burst from her wrists. Luma's eyes widened, and she felt as if the world had shifted. Before she could grasp her surroundings, a vision arose from the depths of her mind. She saw a young woman and an infant child giggling amongst the tall grass of the forest. Nearby, a large majestic deer grazed peacefully until suddenly its head raised sharply in distress. Then, as quickly as the vision appeared, it dispersed into shadow, leaving only an echo of distant howls, gasping. Luma found herself back by the river. A low rumble drew her attention to a calm, powerful bear at her side. "It was her again, Brom," she whispered, her fingers stroking the bear's silvery white fur. The visions had begun several moons ago, each time leaving her more unsettled. There was something familiar about them, but what? She did not know, for as long as she could remember, she had lived and cared for the creature at the river's edge, just as Brom had cared for her. Her memories were distant, impenetrable, not unlike the dark forest beyond, but now something was stirring, a festering change that had spread from the forest. Critters were fleeing the woods in panic. The river had turned foul, and flowers that were meant to blossom now wilted. Even Eek, their playful squirrel friend, had not returned from his latest trip into the forest. Luma looked to Brom, who stared back at her in expectation. She knew she could not wait any longer. The creatures are suffering, Luma thought to herself, but she had never dared to cross the river before. This prologue has you go through a set of prologue cards, but I'm going to be your prologue guide as we go through this to set these up. So basically it tells you to grab the prologue cards so we can set up Luma, Brom, and some of the area around here. So let's go ahead and get that set. First thing we will do is we will put all of the crystals in the crystal spots, so we have those to spend. Then we will put all the location completion markers in their location complete slot. Finally, we will put all of the stun tokens in the stun token slot, and then grab the 5 dice of the d8s that come with the game and add those to the exhausted used dice pool that is there. Our Luma and Brom card, as you can see, Luma is riding Brom. Luma is brave and kind, a child of light. She is guarded by Brom, a fierce old bear with a loyal heart. So this card with the Luma and Brom facing face up will go on the Luma space as our introductory of who she is. This art is just gorgeous. We also grab the Protect card and put it on the Brom space. So during the Luma phase, if Brom is not on the Shadow discard pile, you may spend 1 crystal from any action card to light a creature. Then flip this card, or once per chapter, instead of drawing the final Shadow card, you may place the card face up, Protect, on the Shadow discard pile, then flip your Luma card over. So this is very helpful whenever you get into a desperate situation where you would lose the game. You might be able to protect Luma for 1 more round to see how it steps out. Luma then gets her ability cards. So she has Explore, which basically gains successes. When we roll our dice, we gain successes to resolve 1 Explore location action that we can do as an Explorer. Now, what's really cool about this game is that this card is multifaceted. So if you are trying to gain successes where you need to gain n number or a specific number of successes to get past something and you fail, that's okay. It won't feel great, but you get to use this bottom ability. For every success, you get to draw 1 Explore card, choose 1, and discard the rest. So even if you fail a Explore location check, you can still draw Explore cards that could be helpful to you. Luma's next card is Light. So gain successes to light 1 creature. What light 1 creature means is to stun it. So you're shining your spirit light onto this harsh creature. It's stunned by that, and therefore it won't activate. So it gives you a chance to be able to survive an encounter on your first run. However, the same thing does go through, where it says if you fail that check, for every success, advance the light marker 1 space. Luma's light marker is kind of a progress set that you're trying to get to. We'll get to that section in our playthrough as the story unfolds. We have help. Certain places on the storybook will have you do help checks. And in those help checks, you can use this ability to gain successes to resolve 1 help. Or if you fail that check, for every success you get, you gain 1 crystal if you want. You can choose to not do the help and do the bottom action if you want to. So this is just a way to progress your story. But if you're not ready to do that and you need some crystals, you can just say, I'm going to use this help ability to gain crystals, roll the amount of dice that you want, and gain those successes as well. So they're very multifaceted. The final ability Luna has is to heal. Healing is how you deal with creatures that you will encounter. When you heal them, you discard them from being engaged with you and put into the creature discard pile. So this is the way, this is the true way to get creatures that are hostile towards you away from you. You can, once again, if you fail or if you choose, you can say for every success you recover 1 health, or 1 spirit is a better way to put it, as this heals up. So this is another card that's available to you. In the prologue, you will gain a prologue card that your shadow cards, and they'll be marked with shadow at the top. There can be multiple of these, but in this prologue there is only one. They tell you to take it, put it face down on the shadow cards, on the shadow space on the storybook. The prologue itself, or the chapter that you in, will give you the explore card for that area. So if you do an explore check and it tells you to draw a card, these you will draw. In the prologue you just get 2. You shuffle these up and you put them on the explore space. Finally, if there are any creature cards as part of your chapter, you'll be given them. You shuffle these up as well and you put them down on the creature space. These are the creatures of the corruption that will come to attack Luma and Brom. And just like that, we have our story set up to play. This area at the bottom where your abilities are down here is called the river. So what's going to happen is as you play specific abilities, they will float down, they will flow to the back of the river, and you will do what's called cleanup of the river as you go through. So for example, if I choose to do an explore, I will use that explore ability, and once that ability is resolved, we'll move that ability to the back of the line and move the river up. And that's called cleaning up the river. So it's basically, you'll have spaces where you have to succeed on tests, and when you use those tests, they go to the back. As we flip the page, which we're going to do right now, you'll see how they work. So basically, if I choose to do, let's rewind our actions here. If I choose to do an explore action, I need to roll a 3 or more on a die for a success. If I choose to do a light, 4 or more. If I choose to do help, I have to roll a 5 or more on this die, and if I choose a 6 or more to make this successful. You can, as these shift around, the skill checks shift as well. So if I do that same explore action and at cleanup I move here, now in explore I will need a 6 or more to succeed, and for lighting I just need a 3 or more to succeed. There are 3 more spots in the river here that you can use, but as you can see they're not available, so you will have to shift these items down the river in a nice puzzly way to make things work. And if there's ever if you ever have to add a 7th card and you can't because either creatures are gumming up the works or something is taking over here, you will then lose 1 spirit, and you have to draw equal to, you discard a creature card and then you lose spirit equal to that creature's attack ability that you have set up. So does that, hopefully that makes sense to everyone looking at it. Also, this board is broken up into beautiful art that you can see here, but we still need to complete our setup. We will take our light token, our light marker, and we'll put it at the leftmost space, and we will take the shadow marker and put it at the rightmost space. This is alignment. So basically what we want to do is we want to get our light token, our light marker, to the center of the board. If the shadow marker makes it to the center of the board, we lose the chapter. So this is an auto loss, and we have to deal with the auto loss scenes that are here. Crossing the river. Despite her apprehension, Luma followed Brom as he edged towards the river and the path of glowing leaves. The visions was still fresh in her mind, and she couldn't help but think of the deer. It had seemed so frightened. Fear began to swell from somewhere deep within and pushed against Luma's heart. She reached for Brom's fur, grasping tightly, as together they stepped into the water. So it's set up. All of the cards needed for the prologue are included in the prologue deck. Be sure not to shuffle it and follow the instructions on the cards closely in order to learn how to play. Each chapter will include its own deck of cards to be placed in the story space. Place the entire prologue deck in the story space on the left dashboard. After the prologue, only each chapter's story cards will be placed there. And then we have to draw Prologue 3, which I will go through with you. I am your guide on this wonderful journey. So shadow effects, which means if we ever run into this symbol whenever we're doing the shadow phase, we have to draw 1 creature card. Now, these are the things that we need to deal with. So we can win this scene, and that's what this is. This is broken up into a scene. And we can win the scene of this chapter if you first light the scene by moving the light marker to the center of the Wildwoods track and then resolve the onwards. If we do that, we travel to scene 2 into the dark. Now, We lose the scene if the shadow marker reaches the center of the Wildwoods track, then travel to scene X along alone in the dark. So if we pass, we're going to scene 2. If we fail, there's another scene. So this is kind of a branching story path. And this scene that we've unfolded is ready for view. As you can see, the art is beautifully illustrated with so many things going on in this picture, but what you see is connecting paths, and the colors match the colors on the card. Now, for someone like myself who has a little bit of color blindness, this still works out because the symbology is here as well. So if you see the symbols, you can match those symbols with the ability. So not only is it color, it's symbols that match as well. So great job. Also, if you want to, this down here denotes how many successes that you have to be able to do these things. So for instance, if I want to cross the river, I need to roll an explore check with 2 successes to be able to say that this location has been taken care of to cross. If I want to do the untangle, this is a help action, and I need 1 success, and I will gain 2 crystals if I'm able to do this. And then onwards, which is another explore action, I'll draw story card 2, but I need 1 success to move past the scene. And this track that you see here marks an order. So I can't say I'm going to do onwards without doing cross. You have to do cross first before you do onwards. And remember, our story is I first have to light the scene by moving the light tracker to the center of the board, and then I have to do the onward set to do it. And you can do it within, those are your win conditions, but everything else on this chapter you can do as you see fit. So we've placed the story cards on. This is what they're going to look like. And if you notice, it's building out a scene as you see as it gets closer and closer to these areas. All right, let's go ahead and begin, it's going to be pretty straightforward. On the beginning of our turn, we recover all of the used dice back into our hand, which is the 5 that we have, and then we determine which tests we're going to take. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to cross the river. Now, it's an explore check. We need 2 successes, and we need a 3 or higher to be able to be successful. Because it's 2, I'm going to grab 3 dice, and we're going to give these 3 dice a roll to see how this shakes out. So I have a 6, a 5, and a 2. I have a 6 and a 5. Remember, I need a 3 or higher to be successful, so I pass this test. So what I will do, I'll take a story marker, place it on here saying these are passed, take these dice, put them into the used dice pool, and then follow what it says at the bottom. Draw story card 1. So we'll draw story card 1. Let's take a look at it. A cold splash. Brom entered the chilly water without hesitation. For Luma, the bracing cold was a reminder that home, along with its warmth and safety, would soon be behind them. Brom paused to glare at Luma and with an encouraging snort, faced forward again. Whatever awaited them on the other side, they would face together. Now, we have on-play effects, which means when this card is drawn, you do these effects. Draw 1 creature card, and then read on to what it needs to happen next. Our creature card we drew is the Canje. As you can see, let's break down this card a little bit. So, the Canje creature, on play, it goes to the end of the river, and after it activates, move 1 space towards the start of the river. When it attacks you, it deals 1 spirit damage, and if you want to stun it, you can see the yellow to light, you need 1 success. If you want to heal it, you need 1 success. And if it's defeated, you gain 1 crystal. So that's what this card breaks down to mean, and the art's just beautiful. All right, this Canje is going to come in. Remember, on play, place it at the end of the river. So it's going to come in here, and it is now part of our river story. We use this explore ability, so we have to clean up the river. It'll move forward, and the explore ability comes in here. So that's where we end up. The one thing I will mention here that I forgot to do, but I will put it as a mention, is to set her starting health. In the prologue, they have you start here, and so that you can experience what's going to happen should she get hurt a lot or have to take a shadow card. I believe they have you start here instead. So we will go from there. Okay, with 2 dice left, our actions are not done. There's a cry here, but we're going to try to do this untangle so we can gain some crystals. So I'm going to do the help action, and the help action, remember, I need 4+, but I only need 1 success to make this, so I'll roll 2 dice, and we'll give this a roll and see how we do. So I rolled a 3 and a 2, which is a failure. So I did fail this. I was not successful. So therefore, we take these, put them in the used dice, and that will be the end of the round. In the prologue, they tell you for this case, just keep rolling until you get successes. However, in this case, I want you to see how this really runs. As I'm saying, I'm trying to do a help action. Since it was unsuccessful, nothing happens. We clean up the river. And then we are out of dice, which means it's the end of our turn. So on our turn, then it goes to the shadow phase. So first things first, you activate any creatures in the river. This creature will say, okay, well, it's going to attack me for 1. And then it's going to go to and then after activation, move 1 space towards the start of the river. So it will just swap places with heal, which is there. Fantastic. And then this is going to move 1 space towards the center. That is going to, remember that symbol that was here, the draw 1 creature card. So we draw the next creature card and we take a look at what this creature is. We have a Wildvark, and this Wildvark is going to deal 3 spirit damage when it activates. On play, it goes on the 6+ space, and after activation, it goes to the end of the river. So as the Wildvark comes in, it pushes everything back, and that's where it sits up, which is fantastic. And now that's the end of the shadow phase. Now it goes back to Luma phase, so we get all our dice back and we continue on with our adventure. So this is not fun. This isn't a good thing. Okay, we need to deal with this creature is going to be bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light this creature. Remember on it, it's 2 successes to heal, but only 1 success to light, and we need a 3+. So I'm going to roll 3 dice to try to light that creature up. And I got an 8 and a 6. I got success, so therefore we're going to take a stun token and put it on the Wildvark. It will not activate on its turn because it is stunned. These go here, then we clean up the river, pushing these things through. And then finally, I'm going to try to heal this Cry. Now, when we try to heal it, I'll need a 4+, and I only need 1 success, so I'm going to roll 2 dice this time to try to see if we can heal this creature up. So let's go ahead and roll, and I need a 4+. I got a 5. I got the 1 success on the heal, which means I've defeated this creature. I will gain 1 crystal for defeating it, and this will go in the creature discard pile. I get to place this crystal anywhere I want. I'm going to put it on light. And then this has been used, so we have to move all these forward and put heal back over here. And finally, we have 1 die left to use. I'm going to try this Untangle again. Remember, I need 1 success, but this time I will need a 5 or a 6 to do it. So let's roll. I got a 5, which is perfect. I have exactly what I needed for the help action, which means I will put an Explore here so it's completed, and I will gain 2 more crystals that I'll put on light, and then put these over here, then shift and clean up the river. I'm out of dice. It is the creature's turn, so it will be, okay, let's activate the creature, but he is stunned, and at the end of his activation, he will go to the end of the river. We'll remove the stun token, then we'll clean up the river, then we'll move the shadow marker here. All right. Okay. Beginning of our turn, we're going to get these back. And now we're going to try to finish off this scene. We're going to try to light the scene up by doing a light action. We have these 3 crystals, which can mean 3 successes. So 1, 2, 3, which means I only need 1 more success to do it. I'm going to roll these 2 dice to try to gain a 4 or higher. And I got a 7 and an 8. So I go 1, 2, that's 2 successes, and then I'll spend 2 more crystals, 1, 2, to fully light the scene. These crystals stay on your cards even as you move through scenes, so they don't get cleared off, which is fantastic. So now the first part of our requirement is the scene is lit, so we're good to go. These will go into the use dice, and then we have 3 left. And for my final action, I'm going to explore, which is to use onward, and we're going to go ahead and roll these dice. And I need a 3+, and I have 1, 4, oh, and 7, thank goodness. So we'll do the explore. To explore onwards, draw story card 2 as we go through, but we also check our win condition. As soon as the win condition is met, we advance on. But this says to draw story card 2, so let's do that first. Reflection. Was this a taste of things to come? What afflicted these creatures and caused them to act so unnaturally? Maybe this is what the deer had been frightened of, Luma thought. These creatures needed help, and perhaps she and Brom could bring healing to the forest. It was not far away now. On play, travel to scene 2, Into the Dark. So our win condition has been met. We were able to play this, so we completed the scene. Once we complete the scene, we get to travel, but first, before we do that, we have to clean up the river, because this is still a thing. And then we travel. So how does travel happen? First, we discard all creature cards from the river. Then we clean up the river, again, moving things out in shift. We remove the light marker and shadow marker. We remove all locations, and then we move on to the next scene by turning the page. Into the Dark. Luma sat down on the other side of the river and rested her head against Brom's reassuring leg. She smiled a little as she watched the Wildvark happily dig up some thick roots from the sodden soil. Her light had proven successful in healing the creature from the crimson shadows, but it had drained her of her spirit. Every time she used the light, she had felt closer to the brink, in danger of being lost to the shadow herself. It made her feel frightened and abandoned, just like she felt at the dead of night when the nightmare came to visit her. In her heart, Luma understood that if the shadow continued to spread, it wouldn't just be the forest that suffered, it would be everything she loved, the creatures she had cared for, her home at the river's edge, even Brom. The old bear heaved his body with a deflated sigh and nudged her gently. Slowly, Luma's dark thoughts subsided, and she felt a sense of calm return. "I'm ready, Brom," she said, meeting his eyes. The bear looked towards the forest, then back at Luma. He nodded as he had always done when she shared her visions and fears with him. With Brom by her side and a growing light inside of her, Luma gathered up her courage and marched towards the unknown. Something or someone was calling her to heal the forest, and she felt ready to face whatever shadows awaited her. But with each step, her sense of responsibility grew heavier, and doubt remained. If I fail, everything will be lost. Nerves started to get the better of her, and she held onto Brom tighter and tighter with each passing step. Congratulations on completing the prologue. So we basically will clean up the prologue, we'll get everything set, and that's for the next video as we go through. I hope you've enjoyed this prologue preview of Storyfold Wildwoods by Open Owl Studios. I will be back for the next video and we'll go into chapter 1 and have a good time. Until then, I love you and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.